But boy, we're seeing a lot of folks out there, a lot of new realtors. We're about to see a culling, as they say.
Hopefully.
Because a lot of people aren't paying their dues this year.
Seems like it's been that story for a few years, and I'm like, how is there still competition?
I agree with you, and there were a lot of people that there's always going to be the people that join. Well, go out, get educated, get licensed, and become a realtor for what they think are the right reasons, right? But man, is it hard. Passing the test is the easiest thing you're ever going to do.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
The real work begins now, where you have to go so far out of your comfort zone, and you have to do it quickly. And so many people
and always, never ends.
Oh yeah, it never ends.
You're always stretching, and
you just become comfortable with the uncomfortable. So
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, there's the intro.
Cool.
Think about it.
That was good. Yeah.
Welcome to Loans Elevated, the podcast that brings you the latest industry news, expert interviews, and insightful discussions that will help you stay ahead in this dynamic market. I'm your host, Brock Lassig, and I've spent years in the trenches of the mortgage industry, helping individuals and businesses navigate the complex landscape of real estate financing.
I'm your co-host, TJ Heidenreich, and together we'll cover a wide range of topics, from business strategies that skyrocket your success to mindset and motivation that fuel your growth.
Yeah. All right, we're good? Okay, sweet. I love it. All right, cool. Well, thank you all for joining the Loans Elevated podcast again. I'm Brock Lassig, and one of your hosts here. As a reminder, like we start every show, or at least try to, please be sure to like and follow and share all these episodes. It helps us a tremendous amount. And at the end, give us your thoughts, comment, and do whatever you can to engage with us. It's really valuable for us and the show and what we're doing. But today, we have a special guest, Jon Bass. Him and I go back. I didn't even remember. I remembered his name, but I didn't remember how we knew each other. And we go back. He was a compliance guy, which us loan officers really try to stay away from. It's probably why I forgot his name for a minute, or how I knew him. Yeah. But anyway, at a mortgage company that I spent the majority of my career at early on. And that's how we have been connected. And he's now become a realtor over several years. And he's just kind of in alignment with the way we think about the industry and how buyers should consider investing in real estate, and kind of breaks the norms of what many of our colleagues and competitors really focus on in the industry. So we wanted to talk about a few things. I don't know if you have anything to intro on.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, Jon Bass with First Class Real Estate, and we're really seeing a lot of stuff in the news that I think can be really debunked logically, and I think that some of your viewers may find the perspectives interesting, specifically when it comes to what it does mean to keep a roof over your head and the costs associated with doing so. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
For sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. So we did kind of just create a few talking points that will be the guide to the conversation, and I'm sure we're going to go off into different directions like is pretty common. But number one, what affordability really means in 2025 beyond the headlines is what we wrote down. So I sit in a mortgage office guiding clients on the tactical, just quantifiable mortgage stuff. We deal with emotions, yes, but less than you do. So, and you probably hear conversations in a different perspective and light than we hear them. So when we talk about what affordability really means in 2025 beyond the headlines, obviously you and I understand that there's so much more to it than what the news says and the doom and gloom that's often promoted. But from a client standpoint, what do you feel like the hurdles are when you're working hand-to-hand combat, showing homes and things? What are the clients saying? Are they just buying fully into those headlines or what?
A lot of them are when they're first starting to browse. Okay. So when you have a lot of these internet leads that just love looking at homes, you're going to see them on your website and they're clicking on cool stuff, and you get in touch with them, follow up, and finally get a hold of them. They say, well, the unaffordability is killing me, so I just like to look. But what does that really mean? Affordability, right? You got to be able to afford the roof over your head, whether you rent or buy. Irregardless, it doesn't discriminate on owners or renters. I personally know tons of landlords, and I am a landlord myself, who are in a situation where now they're starting to increase rent about $200 to $300 a month on new lease renewals because they have to.
Right.
Their costs have gone up so much, and some of these landlords I've talked to recently, they said they haven't raised rent on their tenants in 9 years.
Or frankly, they may have to, but also they can. And why wouldn't you?
That's
like
also
a
true.
landlord owns real estate as an investment, so they are a capitalist. They want to make money. Just like anyone, like anybody watching, you want to make money on the 401k that you have, and any investment you have, you want to make as much money as possible within reason. Now, it does get a little bit interesting because you're dealing with families and keeping a roof over their head, and your profits. So there are some, I think most landlords, by and large, at least the mom and pop, type landlords, actually care about keeping them in a safe place and allowing families to remain housed. But the fact is, it's an investment, and they want to make money. And I agree. It's been, for so long, rates were so low that it's almost like there was this like complex of like, I don't want to be greedy from a lot of landlords, and they don't want to overcharge because their rates are so low. And I feel like that's starting to erase itself because the barrier to entry to homeownership has changed.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like, well, I mean, I'm going to increase the rent. It's crazy you say that. I was just talking to my wife last night at date night, and my sister-in-law has lived in the same home for like 5 or 6 or 7 years. Long time. Perfect tenant, always pays, takes great care of the property. It's probably in better condition now than it was when she moved in. It's been an awesome thing. And the landlord is selling, and they've been trying to sell for several years. It's a unique property. And they finally just said, hey, we think it's going to sell better if you're not living there. So they just booted her. And it's like, that's, to your point, affordability from a economic standpoint is one thing, but affordability from a life stability standpoint is a whole different thing. And you don't have that if you're not a homeowner.
Super big point, right? And that's kind of where you get to is you want a predictable house payment. You want a predictable payment that keeps a roof over your head. If you're renting, you're looking at redoing your lease every year with a potential increase, or the owners of the place go, hey, we're going to sell this place and buy something in the Bahamas. So now you have to figure out housing. Affordability does mean two things. What can you afford, and can you, is it worth it to make sure you don't have to worry about things like being unhoused, you and your family? If rent and a mortgage are going to be around the same price per month, then you really start thinking, affordability in the ownership realm looks a lot more desirable than affordability in the rent realm. So we have to have this perspective change. Now, the reason this is important, the news only talks about buying homes. The news only talks about how housing is so expensive.
Rates went up. Home prices went up. All this crap.
No one can afford their first-time home buying, or no one can afford to be a first-time home buyer is what I'm hearing a lot. Absolute garbage. I mean, how many new FHA applications come out every month?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and we just we're actually, in a couple weeks, we're getting a brand new down payment assistance program here in Utah, specifically for first-time buyers, that creates way more affordability for these houses. And I mean, the thing is, I don't think I ever argue that the mortgage payments are higher. They are higher.
Absolutely.
But are you looking at the full picture? Because so many people are like, well, I'm paying this mortgage or this rent payment, and I've got to pay an extra $500 or $1,000 a month to own a house. And arguably, it's maybe less desirable. And I'm like, okay, well, are you considering the tax advantages you're going to get? Because that cuts a few $100 a month out of that cost. Are you considering the fact that $500,000 property is going to go up? Even in this market, in the highest rates we've seen in decades, we're seeing home prices go up by 5% a year pretty easily. So it's like a $500K house, you make $25,000. That's $2,000 a month in net worth added to your bottom line as a homeowner. And yes, you might have paid, let's say, $1,000 extra per month, but I think it's also a paradigm shift of it's not only an expense. This is an investment. When you're a homeowner, it's an investment, but it's also a control mechanism. You get to determine, do I have a consistent house, roof over my head, and do I have a consistent payment? Because to your point, landlords, maybe they don't raise the rent for 2 or 3 years, and now suddenly, over that time, you get a raise as an occupant of that home. You get a raise, but the landlord's not raising rent, so what do? Well, you start eating out at nicer restaurants. You start buying different groceries. You get another subscription. And then they slap on 2 or 3 years worth of rent increases in one, and you're like, holy cow, I didn't plan for that.
Right.
That wasn't good. And so it's like, I don't know. It's multifaceted.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and this kind of jumps to the third point, which maybe we just jumped to right now, because a lot of people are telling me they got commitment phobia when it comes to buying their own place. Have you heard that one before?
Oh, I mean, for sure.
Like
Probably not in that word, but the undertones of every client is like, I don't know that I want to commit to it.
Well, and what in the world does that really mean? I have thought so long and hard about this. You probably have your opinion, but you're committing to have a roof over your head. We go back to that term, right? Mm-hmm. You're committing to put yourself in a home where you can live in. You're doing that regardless, whether you rent or own. So what you're really committing to as a renter is exactly what you were saying. You don't have a predictable housing payment per month. You don't have a predictable housing situation past a year. You have two things that every year you have to figure out. Am I staying here? Are they increasing rent? Have policies changed? All of a sudden I can't have a dog because the insurance premiums went up. Any little thing. People don't think about these little nuances that can change lease to lease past your rent going up. You get a mortgage, you're committing to stability, you're committing to a predictable house payment, and you're committing to an investment that's going to make you money. So, you know how they say choose your hard? Choose your commitment.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it is like renting is a pit of uncertainty and 100% interest. There's no tax advantage. There's no investment gain. There's nothing good that's going to come out of renting except for you're housed, which is good. The homeownership side, it's like, to your point, like there's so much control. And some people are like, well, I don't know if I want to live here for that long. And I'm going through school. And once I get this certification or that degree or whatever, or, once my spouse gets to work, we're going to be able to afford so much more. And that's 2 or 3 years down the road. So we're just going to wait. And it's like, if you just own, if the market is not good to sell when you want to make this move 2 or 3 years down the road, then rent your own freaking house out and buy another one. Those options are so easy to accomplish. So the beauty of owning is your hand is not forced to do anything. If the market's down, you don't have to sell and you don't have to lose money. You can just rent and figure it out. So it's like there's a lot more certainty. The destiny is more within your control.
Yes.
And there's so many financial advantages, which is such a big deal.
So many financial advantages. And really, I don't know too many people who bought something and lived in it for 5 to 7 years and didn't come out on top. I know we have a little bit of a situation with how much pricing inflated about 5 years ago now, right after COVID in this town. People that bought there, they did typically overspend, and they may not have the most equity right now, but it still will catch up, right?
Well, and they don't have equity. Like some of those people within the past couple of years, is the ones I find, most people have plenty of equity. The ones I find that are in that situation are the ones that bought maybe 2 or 3 years ago. They used 100% financing and they financed their closing costs. So they walked into the house underwater. So yeah, in 2 years, if you go into an investment underwater, you finance 106% of the investment. Well, then in 2 years, you're probably not going to be above water.
No.
So like you also have to be, I don't think that there's people that bought with a regular down payment, even the ones that overspent in COVID era, like those that overspent during that time, the prices kept going at such a significant clip that like I've not met any, I have thousands of past clients and I've not met one of them, even that bought in that era, that are in trouble.
Got it.
Except for like the ones that did 100% financing or more. Like I had a veteran and it was sad, but he lost his income and he financed 100% because you can do that as a veteran. But guess what else happens on a VA loan? You have the funding fee. So he's 102, 103% of the value of the home, and he lost his income unexpectedly within the first year. So it's like, yeah, you're SOL in that circumstance, but that's pretty rare.
Small portion of the overall picture, right?
Yeah.
Does your home and auto insurance seem to go up every year without fail? Mine did too. I thought this was just the way the insurance industry worked until I found my friend Alan Johnson with American Family Insurance. After more than 15 years with the same insurance agent, he saved me over $3,000 per year when I switched. I refer all my family, friends, and clients to him, and their experience is similar. great rates, and a great experience. Call Alan for a free quote today at 801-708-2962.
And that's good to know. You know, there's also a lot of folks out there that I come across who do need to move, you know, who bought back then, that need a larger house or you know, some kind of different footprint, right? They have kids now and the stairs are too steep, whatever it may be. You got people that are out there that actually don't think they have enough equity to make a move, and they really do.
Right.
You know? So again, I just think it comes back to these headlines that really just paint the doom and gloom left and right. And, you know, for a while I try to ignore them, but now that I've been in this, you know, industry for so long, I mean, we're dot connectors.
Right.
Folks like you and me, and we find someone who's at this dot of where they are, and then they have this dot way down here of where they want to be. And we pave the road and we connect other dots that, you know, kind of maybe try to take us off the straight line. We make sure any kind of dot that takes us up here and down there is going to stay straight, because the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? That's the service we provide. And that's just, you know, speaking to everyone who's watching this, the news will tell you the fear, it sells, but we're the ones that can connect the dots and get you through the minutia.
100%. Yeah,
Right?
we're the pragmatic backstop for the emotional journey that homeownership is, and spending a bunch of your money is, and making a large commitment is, and moving your family is. All these things are highly emotional. If you're dealing with a true pro like us, we are the pragmatic backstop that allows a lot of those emotions to be diffused just by your point. We've seen it. We've done it. We know the path. We know the pros. We know the people. We know the solutions that will get you through the path. No matter, I mean, honestly, no matter what the situation is. Like, we talk to people literally just yesterday morning in our lead review with my team. We were following up with a client, and we've been following up with them for 2.5 years, and they're now finally there. But over that 2.5 year process, we've been connecting those dots, and they're going to be a homeowner. And it's a really opportune time for them to become a homeowner. They can negotiate better now, certainly, than they could have 2.5 years ago. It's a great opportunity for them as a buyer, which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and that's great, because that shows their commitment to, you know, doing what's necessary to be in a position to buy at the right time. Another, you know, homage back to the commitment argument.
Yeah.
Choose your commitment and it works out well. The other thing I kind of want to bring up, you know, and you know a lot about where Utah stands as far as the national housing market goes as well. You know, we're usually somewhere in the top 20. Salt Lake City is, when it comes to metro areas on housing market indexes, and then Utah's usually in the top 10 for states. That are seeing, you know,
probably top 5. I mean, I haven't seen them out of the top 5 for, I don't even know when.
Yeah. You know, we have a hot market here, but we also have a high market. It's pretty well known out there that, you know, the price per square foot here is up big time, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think there's a few things that contribute to it being such a hot market here that other places may or may not have. One of them is we're seeing contracts left and right with anywhere between 10 to 15,000 and seller paid closing costs.
Oh yeah,
right.
For
They're
sure.
just happening all over this town. And that's a big part of that is, you know, listing agents like myself, we have conversations with sellers about what it's going to take for someone to get into this house so they can move on from it. And, you know, that helps prep them for, you know, in some price points, we're seeing the full 3% of concessions being asked for.
We've even seen
given
6%.
Yeah.
And that honestly changes the entire landscape of affordability, because lots of people just look, and the news glamorizes the baseline. So it's like they look at the highest rate they've heard is available and they run it on a 30-year fixed payment. They're like, crap, no, can't do it. But it's like you get 3 or 6% concessions and you can do a permanent and or a temporary rate buy down. I mean, you're getting into a house with very limited cash out of pocket, which means you might reserve some for reserves, basically. You can subsidize your payment, but we can also get the rate down, which, I mean, on certain properties, I've seen the payment savings be over $1,000 a month. Now, granted, those are pricey properties because they're here in Utah, but you can save $1,000 a month. Like we're talking a payment of like 15 or 20% cheaper than what most people are seeing on a online calculator or from the news,
just based on those dynamics, which is interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah, and those payment calculators, I know they're fun to play with out there, but talk to the pros.
Yeah.
They just do the most highest of high levels. So that's just another thing where the news says you can go to this website and mess with their payment calculator, and people do it, and they see $4,000 or $5,000 payments, and they're like, oh my gosh, they're right. Everything's so unaffordable. It's not the real number.
And even if it is, like, at some point, like, and I've said this many times, but anybody listening should go and download the ebook, A Simple Path to Financial Freedom, Holistic Mortgage Planning. It's on loanselevated.com. I wrote this, and it was essentially like an outcry of, I don't know what you call it, desperation, frustration, inspiration, whatever, that I wanted to get all of these strategies and thoughts and ideas out into the open public based on what you're saying. Like, I just wrote, I went haywire on this and showing people that, yes, like most people have a plan. They either they are thinking they need to buy a home more expensive than they actually need to spend. Mm-hmm. So they're looking at they're making emotional decisions on extremes and not being realistic, and not realizing that 2 or 3 years down the road, all we have to do is fill the gap there, because most people I talk to, especially first-time homebuyers, they know they're going to make tremendously more money in 2 or 3 years, and they know things are going to shift. And there are strategies, like you said, with the seller-paid concessions, but even with your own money that the news certainly doesn't talk about, and I would say 99 out of 100 mortgage pros are not going to talk about. My team certainly talks about this stuff, and they are creative risk mitigation tactics that enable you to own real estate and help get over this hurdle of high mortgage payments. Because I'm not debating, they are freaking high, and it sucks. But it's going to get worse in 2 or 3 years from now. It's not going to get easier, and you may as well be the benefactor of the equity being gained, because my opinion is, and of course this is just opinion, we don't know, my opinion is that sometime in the next 2 to 3 or 4 years, we see another huge run of values in Utah, because the pent-up demand is insane.
Yes, I would agree, and I believe we're going to keep seeing a very steady demand as we approach the Olympics.
Exactly. And then we have the Point here in Draper, and we've got the Inland Port, and all these things just keep growing, and more people are going to move here because they have to move here.
Yes.
And they're all going to want to buy or have to buy.
Well, and that's the other point about how strong our market is. Statewide, we have a 3% unemployment rate.
And we basically always have.
We always have.
Or less. You know, it's like,
this town employs people, and you can say, maybe we don't pay as much as other states like California, New York, or whatever.
See, that's changing.
But it does seem to be changing. We are recruiting,
and we also don't charge 15% state tax either on the income. So it's like, look at the whole story.
Yeah, and really the bottom line is we have jobs in this town. People are getting hired in this town. People are paying their bills in this town. Mm-hmm. Our notice of defaults are on the rise, but they're still not crazy.
I mean, we're less than 1%. So it's like, oh man, they went up from 0.6% to 0.7%, 0.7%. It's like, come on.
Yeah, and that's going to be, those things do increase as we all know. Credit card debt in the country is at all-time highs. Mm-hmm. People have charged things for years now because they really haven't had many other options. They are sitting on a lot of equity. Most of them have a 2-3% interest rate, so it's really hard for them to leverage that equity. There's some tough situations people are finding themselves in.
But here's the beauty. The people that don't own find themselves in the same tough situation, and they have no equity as a backstop. Like, I just worked with a client. I said this on the last episode too. It's worth mentioning. Worked with a client. It's exactly what you're saying. They have hundreds of thousands in equity because they've owned for the past 5 years, 6 years, something like that. And they happen to get into some credit card debt and a HELOC debt and some different things that are stressing them out. They have a 3.25% rate. I'm like, hey, let's run the numbers. Like, we don't have to do this refinance. We could do a HELOC or a second mortgage. Let's run the numbers. We ran the numbers, and they chose, because it made a lot of sense, to get rid of their 3.25% rate, take a 7% rate, wrap everything into one mortgage. It saved them $2,000 a month. They cut those savings in half, put $1,000 towards the mortgage. They pay off all their debt, including their mortgage, faster than they could pay off all of their debt right now with actually $1,000 less out of pocket than they currently are. Like, they're legit saving $1,000 a month in monthly cash flow for their family, and they are on a path to pay off all their debt faster than they could otherwise.
Absolutely.
And they took a rate that was almost 4% higher. So it's like these emotional decisions, to your point, in this closed-minded view of there aren't options. Homeowners for sure have options. Renters do not. And renters also have they don't have the HELOC, but they got probably more credit card debt than these homeowners because they don't have the HELOC. And they still have all the other debt and all the other economic pressures with no outlet.
Right. And, if they ever decide they want a bigger place in another unit that's somewhere in another building managed by another property management company, oh, man. You've obviously seen the list of things due upon signing at some of these property management companies. For
it's getting worse.
So be ready to have, I don't know, $3,000, maybe even 4 to 5, depending on where you want to live, ready to go, and you'll never see that again.
Yep.
That's not a down payment on your mortgage. That is straight to someone else.
Yeah, money's gone. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the down payment on your mortgage, at least you get it back at some point in the future.
Yeah. And I mean, we have a hot market in this town for a number of reasons. I think those are some of the big ones. But, this town really does have an upper echelon class of service professionals who can help people navigate the real estate market here.
Yeah, agreed. You don't have a bunch of schmucks, and you got people that care and are smart, and definitely. Yeah,
man. I mean, I think that was all.
That's all you got?
I had.
That's all I've got too. I think that was really good, and I think a different perspective. Thank you for being here. And I think it's good to kind of get the perspective from the real estate agent's point of view. He happens to be a pretty analytical one because he used to be a compliance guy, so he's a pretty analytical one compared to others. But thank you all for tuning in, and thank you for being here.
No, thank you.
As a reminder, please be sure to like, follow, subscribe, comment, share, do all the things. You can find a bunch of free resources, including the book that I mentioned, at loanselevated.com. Follow us on all social media platforms at Loans Elevated. And thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for tuning in. For more industry insights, follow us on all platforms at Loans Elevated.
And to get in touch with our team, call or text 801-713-4000 or visit loanselevated.com.